Every morning you head to work, ask yourself one question. Did I choose this life or was it chosen for me? If the answer is not yours, this video is for you. Because the system is not deceiving you, it simply never tells you the truth. In 1974, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act was passed in the United States. This law transferred pension control away from employers and into individual accounts. From that very day, your financial freedom became someone else's income. Banks tell you to save, yet interest rates sit below inflation. Insurance companies say protect your future, but they use your money for 30 years. Financial advisors say diversify, but they collect their fees either way. Compound interest is the greatest half-truth ever told to you. Yes, if you wait 30 years, your money grows, but who lives those 30 years? You or the system. During that time, the bank lends your money, invests it, and earns millions. The financial industry earns over $400 billion in fees globally every year. Where does that money come from? Exactly from the funds you are saving for your future. Every 1% fee erases 25% of your final capital over 30 years. Here's a truth you are never told. Retirement accounts and pension funds were designed to keep workers content. If everyone retired early, the labor market would fall apart. That is why the system motivates you to keep working until 65. In 1997, Robert Kiyosaki wrote one thing plainly in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Anyone who does not understand the difference between active and passive income will always be working. The book was fiercely criticized by the financial industry because it told the truth. Every system has a secret, and this was their biggest one. Diversify, put it in an index fund, forget it. The person giving you this advice does not invest in index funds themselves. They use real estate, private equity, and hedge funds. Ordinary people are sold the least profitable, most fee-heavy products. Financial literacy is not taught in school, and that is no accident. If an entire generation understood finance, consumer debt and the mortgage system would collapse. The system is built precisely on a lack of financial knowledge. Buying a house is an investment. This is one of the greatest financial myths in history. Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Shiller proved in his research that home prices rose only 0.2% above inflation between 1890 and 2012. Yet the bank collects twice the principal and interest over a 30-year mortgage. When you are told to max out your retirement contributions, what is being hidden from you? Fund managers cannot consistently beat the market. Statistics prove it. 92% of actively managed funds have failed to outperform major market indexes over 15 years, but they collect their fees whether they succeed or not. The tax system is structured to benefit those who hold capital. This is not a theory, it is mathematics. Labor income is taxed at high rates, while investment gains are taxed at significantly lower rates. Wealthy individuals earn through capital, not labor, which is precisely why they keep more of what they earn. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, major institutions were rescued by the government. Ordinary citizens lost their homes, their jobs, and watched their retirement funds cut in half. Same system, different rules. Losses go to the people, gains go to the corporations. Dollar cost averaging means putting in a fixed amount each month and is not inherently bad advice. But what they do not tell you is this. The strategy only works when prices trend upward over time. Some major markets have gone decades without returning to previous highs, and investors who waited 35 years are still at a loss. The real formula for financial freedom is straightforward. Your expenses must be less than your passive income, but the system teaches you the opposite. Earn more, spend more, take on debt, keep working. This cycle runs until you reach retirement age. The FIRE movement stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and emerged in the 1990s. Yet mainstream media either ignored it or labeled it extreme. Because if millions had chosen this path, the consumer economy would have faced serious challenges. What do wealthy families teach their children? How to acquire assets, build passive income, and manage their tax situation effectively. Middle-class families teach their children to study hard, find a stable job, and save until retirement. These are two entirely different sets of rules running in parallel inside the same system. Have you ever calculated the true cost of a home loan? A 30-year mortgage on a $2,000 home brings total payments to between $4,000 and $45,000. In other words, you pay for the same home twice, once for yourself and once for the lender. You will never see that number in any bank advertisement. Lifestyle inflation means your spending rises as your income increases, and it is a psychological pattern that has been deliberately reinforced. The advertising industry, social media, and consumer culture all work together. The more you earn, the more you spend, and your savings never actually grow. What does the portfolio of the world's wealthiest individuals look like? Private equity funds, real estate, intellectual property, and ownership stakes in companies. Less than 10% of their wealth sits in standard stock market funds. Yet that is exactly what gets recommended to everyday people. Two different games, two different outcomes. In 2020, a major central bank created trillions of dollars in new money. The majority of that money flowed into asset markets, meaning those who already held assets grew even wealthier. People living on earned income faced rising prices instead, and their purchasing power shrank. It is worth asking who money creation actually benefits. The investments sold to you as safe, such as government bonds and savings accounts, often yield returns below the rate of inflation. This means the longer you hold only cash, the less it can buy over time. Yet financial institutions never highlight this fact in their marketing materials. Retirement as a mass concept spread in the mid-20th century, and before that people worked until they were physically unable. This system was promoted by large organizations to retain workers, not to grant them freedom. And from the perspective of modern medicine, the traditional retirement age is a convention, not a necessity. Investor and thinker Naval Ravikant has said that earning through labor means exchanging time for money, and time has a limit. Passive income is an asset that works independently of your time. You do not need an advanced degree to understand this, but the system never explains it to you in plain language. Find a trustworthy financial advisor. This advice itself can be problematic. In many countries, only advisors bound by a fiduciary standard are legally required to act in your best interest. The majority work on commission, and for them you are not just a client, you are a source of recurring revenue. Avoiding all risk is actually the greatest risk of all. Inflation, taxes, and lost time are invisible risks, yet among the most damaging ones. Doing nothing appears safe, but in reality it carries serious long-term financial consequences. Start young is true advice, but it is incomplete. Start young, yes, but start doing what exactly? If you are only saving and not putting money into productive assets, you are not making the most of your time. Without a clear strategy, time alone is not enough. Before building one of the world's largest companies, entrepreneur Jeff Bezos thought about one question. When I am 80 years old and looking back, which choice will I regret most? This regret minimization approach is one of the most powerful tools for long-term decisions. Yet most people think inside a framework that was built by someone else for someone else's benefit. Every month, money is taken from your paycheck and placed into a retirement fund, and you accept this as normal. But most people never stop to ask whether that money is being managed in their best interest, or whether it will hold its value decades from now. The things you accept without question are often the ones most worth examining. Money does not bring happiness. Do you know who repeats this most often? Research suggests it is most frequently said by those who already have financial security, not to themselves, but to others. Because money brings options, options bring freedom, and freedom is the foundation of a meaningful life. The social contract has shifted, and you sense it even if you cannot name it. A previous generation could work one job, purchase a home, raise a family, and retire with stability. Today, even households with two incomes struggle to afford housing, and this reflects a structural change in the system, not a personal shortcoming. To reach financial independence, you need savings equal to 25 times your annual expenses. This is known as the 4% rule. Respected researchers and financial thinkers have supported this framework for decades. But the financial services industry rarely highlights this simple formula because understanding it reduces dependence on their products. Every year, a large number of people fall victim to financial schemes, yet the most widespread forms of financial loss are never labeled as such. High-fee funds, savings accounts yielding below inflation, and hidden banking charges are all legally permitted practices. Being permitted by law does not necessarily make something fair or beneficial to the consumer. What are the most powerful financial tools available? Tax advantage structures, business ownership, and strategic asset organization. These are what financially sophisticated individuals use, but this knowledge rarely appears in standard personal finance education because it was historically accessible only to those who could afford specialized advice. The idea that employment provides complete financial security deserves reconsideration. Tens of millions of workers around the world have lost their jobs during economic downturns, many of them at organizations they considered stable. An employment agreement does not guarantee your financial future, and owned assets provide far greater long-term stability. Cut expenses, save money, buy index funds. This advice was shaped by the economic conditions of decades past. In today's environment of persistent inflation, rising housing costs, and growing debt burdens, this approach alone is insufficient. Navigating today's financial landscape requires updated thinking, not inherited assumptions. Financial freedom comes down to 2 steps. First, build a source of income that does not depend on your daily labor. Second, once that income reliably covers your living expenses, you have genuine freedom. It is that straightforward, but the financial services industry benefits from making it seem far more complicated than it is. Consider this. The bank lends out your deposited money, the fund company invests your contributed money, and the insurance company builds a portfolio using your premium payments. All of them grow using your capital while you wait for a distant retirement date. It is worth asking who designed this arrangement and whose interests it truly serves. If you want to change your financial direction, begin 3 things right away. Set aside 20% of your income in an account you do not touch, explore one idea for building income that does not require your constant presence, and spend 20 minutes each day learning about personal finance. These steps are not dramatic, but they shift your trajectory, and trajectory determines everything. Retiring at a specific age is not a law. It is a story you were handed and never questioned. It is never too late to begin building a life on your own terms rather than the system's schedule. The most important financial decision you will ever make is the one you choose today. Will you continue as before or begin building something that truly belongs